Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. And a lot of us are watching Congress very carefully right now. Yes, the Republicans got a majority in both houses in November. But it kind of reminds me of William Wallace, in Mel Gibson's William Wallace movie, Braveheart, where he says, what will you do with that freedom? Well, what would you do with that majority, Republicans? One of the guys who's unabashedly speaking out about that on a regular basis is Congressman Steven King from the 4th Congressional District in Iowa, who's been on our show before, and we welcome him back. Congressman King, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks a lot for having me back.
Oh, great to have you in. It's always a pleasure. I was looking, first of all, at your little powwow you had in Iowa about 2 weekends ago, and you had a lot of the candidates there talking. What came out of that for you?
Well, what we really saw was a good measure of each of the candidates, and they gave approximately a 20-minute speech, each one of them. And out of that, for me, it looked to me like every potential, no one's an announced candidate yet, but every potential candidate helped themselves. And some helped themselves more than others, but I just think that what it said was it was a great exercise in expressing our freedom and our liberty, and there are a half a dozen or so candidates, plus or minus a few, that I'd throw their name in a hat and draw one out and be delighted if he could replace the president we have.
We hear an awful lot.
I got out of it.
Yeah, we hear an awful lot today, Congressman, about the establishment Republicans and the Tea Party Republicans. And the Tea Party kind of meant to, realize all regular Americans, I would think. You come from a state where there's a lot of regular Americans and Iowans right there. We hear a lot of talk, but we don't see a lot of action right now. And I know we're looking, for example, at the Homeland Security bill and on funding them. And the first time I ever met you was actually in Iowa, face-to-face. We were out there for Hold Their Feet to the Fire, which I still go to every year. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about immigration policy. And you have Republicans who have said, well, we don't want to fund Homeland Security for the executive order part the president put down on illegal immigration. And yet at the same time, you have people balking on this. And a lot of us are sitting back saying, what will Republicans do with their majority? Are they going to be able to do anything? Your thoughts on all that?
Well, this is a tough spot that we're sitting at right now. And I thought we should not have separated the appropriations bill that was they called it the Cromnibus bill. But when they put that all together to fund all of government till the end of the fiscal year, with the exception of the appropriations bill for the Department of Homeland Security, it weakened our hand. We had the maximum leverage then when we could say, we're not going to fund any of government if the president is going to insist that he can violate the Constitution willy-nilly. And so this got narrowed down, and I will hold my ground on it. Just as we might say now, until the cows come home. And I've said to my colleagues, if you're worried about whether we succeed or not defending the Constitution with the position that's been taken in the House now, just go find 217 other Republicans to sign a blood oath that they will blink after I do. And at that point, I know we win. But as it is, the president has pushed this thing hard. It's breathtaking what he has done to, I'll say, the American historical and my understanding and my deep commitment to the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and we are obligated by law to take an oath of office that pledges that we will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The president takes an oath to preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States and to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And it appears that there are members of Congress, House and Senate, that don't see that oath the same way I do, that you only defend the Constitution up to a point, and then if you think that it gets a little uncomfortable or maybe it doesn't help you politically, then you can say, I did the best I could. It's the other guy's fault. I think we have to do all we can do because it's an oath. It's not just a half a promise. It's an oath.
Well, the president said something yesterday. Why would you cut your nose off to spite your face by defunding the very operations that are involved in making sure we have strong border security? I don't know how he can say that when we're letting people stream in this past summer, running up and grabbing onto the nearest security person and basically getting sent around the country to every different state. And now we have this February 27th deadline, and a lot of people have watched Republicans crumble over the last number of years, and Democrats as well, for that matter. You said yesterday I'm really not worried about the 27th coming and going. Talk a little bit about that.
About the which coming and going?
The February 27th date here for the security funding, yeah.
Okay, no, I follow it because it says that the Border Patrol, Customs Border Protection, ICE, they're all essential services. That's been established, and if we wondered, the President established it during the shutdown that took place a year ago last October. And so that means the Border Patrol is going to continue, and Customs Border Protection is going to continue, and ICE is going to continue. He's essentially ordered a lot of them not to do their job, but to roll out the welcome mat and be everything except valet parking for the rafts that come across the Rio Grande. And so I don't know what we're missing if some of the Border Patrol will get, well, all of them are likely, if we went through this partial shutdown, this mini shutdown just for the DHS appropriations, then their checks would come late. They would still be asked to and required to come to work until this thing is resolved. What's the irony is that USCIS, Citizenship Immigration Services, is fee for service. And during the last shutdown, they were issuing the president's lawless DACA permits and his lawless work permits, and they were being paid on time while the paychecks that were scheduled for the essential services that I've described were delayed, or at least announced that they were going to be delayed. I've not confirmed that it actually happened. So that's the irony of it all. We can go past February 27th. That isn't a hard deadline. But the thing that it needs to happen is the Congress has got to get the resolve, and we need to rein in a president who is doing such damage to this Constitution that if we elect another one that thinks like he does, our republic is lost, and that is what's at stake.
What do Republicans need to do right now that they're not doing, in your opinion?
Well, they've got to make a constitutional issue out of this. And, the Speaker announced that he was considering filing a lawsuit against the President on this, and they asked me if I supported that, and I said, sure, with, not the high degree of enthusiasm, because when the Constitution is violated, you don't wait around for 3 months or so in order to be offended. You step up right away and you say, this is clearly a constitutional violation. I don't think the courts are going to be an effective referee between a disagreement between the legislative branch and the executive branch of government. I mean, by the structure of precedent, they are the deciding factor. But they've been reluctant to do so. I think one of the decisions on Obamacare, when it went through to the Supreme Court to be tested constitutionally, I think the Supreme Court, to some degree, concluded that they were not going to resolve a dispute between Congress and the President on what the law said and whether it was constitutional. And so, therefore, the Roberts opinion came back as inconclusive and threw it back into the decision for Congress to resolve and work out with the President.
Two other things I wanted to talk about. One was Obamacare. You're going to be considering that next week. Today, the Senate is bringing out their idea on what the alternative to Obamacare is going to be. I think Orrin Hatch and another senator are doing that. What do you think is going to come out of that today?
Well, yes, first, we passed the full 100% repeal of Obamacare. What was that, a couple of days ago, day before yesterday?
Right.
And
just to put people back on record again, yeah.
Yeah, and that was language that I wrote in the middle of the night. It would be, I have to go back and look, but I'm going to pick March 23rd, 2010. And after fighting Obamacare day and night for a long time and jumped off a wall and tore up my knee and all that, I drug myself home about 1 or so in the morning and told myself, okay, the bill passed. I'm going to sleep until I'm rested up, get up in the morning, and then I'll figure out what to do next. And I slept about an hour and a half, and I couldn't sleep anymore. I got up and wrote the repeal of Obamacare. And that's the 40 words that was the core of the bill that came through a couple days ago. It's good to see everybody on record on that again. And Republicans in the House now are essentially nearly unanimous on it. And the Senate will get their opportunity also. And that lays the foundation for the next president of the United States to point to that full repeal bill and say, we cannot fix health care in America unless and until Obamacare is repealed.
Yeah, people will say, well, you're not realistic. He's going to veto anything that comes down the line there. So what can we do in the meantime? I know there's a big Supreme Court case in March, and then the judgment will come out probably in June. But again, a lot of people are feeling the brunt of that right now. The Affordable Care Act is not quite so affordable for a lot of people in this country.
Well, and I want to. It's not just I feel their pain. I'm experiencing their pain as well. I mean, my premiums went up when I got pushed onto Obamacare, and believe me, I would have done about anything to stay off of it within the law. But my out-of-pocket after-tax premium increase is $4,426 a year more than I've been paying my share up until then. That's not the highest increase anybody's seen, but it's representative of many people's increases. And so what can we do? We keep passing legislation that some of it that fixes or improves Obamacare, and especially those things that can live the other side of Obamacare's repeal. One of those is to bring legislation for a full 100% deductibility of everybody's health insurance premiums. I've introduced that legislation. There are a number of other pieces along the way that we can do. But meanwhile, we're stuck with this until we can get it repealed. And I don't know that there are. I mean, they have created more people who are more dependent on government. That was the strategy all along, to expand the dependency class in America. The dependency class is going to be more likely to vote for the president and his party, and that's been their goal. But the vitality of America comes from individualism and our own personal responsibilities. And we have now not quite 93 million people who are of working age and simply not in the workforce. It's the highest number in the history of the country. And the non-participation rate is higher than it's been since sometime back in the early Carter years. We need to get a lot of those people that we created a safety net years ago, America did. That's our welfare system. Now that system has grown into at least 80 different means-tested federal welfare programs. The safety net is now a hammock. We need to lower that back down to a safety net again, get a lot of those people out of their hammock and into the workforce, contributing to our economy. And then while we're doing that, we need to give them more personal responsibility, and we need to give them an opportunity to actually benefit from the work they do rather than have the government confiscate the income and roll it into social programs. So that's a big picture statement that I'm making. But if we don't go in that direction, we're eventually going to end up a completely socialist nation with a constitution that doesn't any longer reflect the principles that are in the words of the Constitution itself, and the spirit of America is diminished, and our aspirations are diminished, and we become the arc of history is descending for our country rather than ascending.
Congressman King, final question for you. Republicans got a majority in November. You got a majority in both houses now. One would ask this question, for Republicans and Democrats alike, how long is the mandate right now to start to get things done there before, people say, well, let's get ready to put the other party in next time around? How long do you sense, your colleagues sense, that there's a very short mandate out there for them?
I think it's short, and I think the public is justifiably impatient. When you see that we have now a majority in the Senate, but the message comes out that they may not fight as hard as they can against the president's lawless immigration position, or if the Senate takes a look at Loretta Lynch and she tells them in testimony under oath that she believes, and I'll summarize her words, but it clearly means this: illegal aliens have as much right to work in America as a natural-born American citizen.
Right.
Unbelievable. I mean, if we go ahead and confirm an attorney general whose concept of the law is that, and we let the president write the laws and make them up as he goes, I don't blame the public if they run out of patience. If we put up a real fight and stand on real principles, our success level may not be there until we get a president, but they have to know we believe and we're willing to fight, and we haven't shown enough of that yet. Congressman
King, always a pleasure having you aboard. Thank you for fighting the good fight out there, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Completely my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Yeah. Congressman Steven King with us here on the Gary Sutton Show. A lot of people call him a rabble-rouser. What's he doing? Well, he fights for the Constitution. He fights for legal rules to get into this country. Yeah.